You know, Dr. T, to a lot of people that may be watching this, maybe not from a majority world context that has a social ethos or a social philosophy, like maybe Ubuntu or Sankofa or Ubuntu or whatever the Judeo-Christian. I mean, there's different iterations of the culture that is formed when people adhere to divine values, right? That speak to the idea of community, which is the most original. The moment God's story finds an inflection point into the story of humanity, the first revelation of who God is that God is community, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. In the beginning, God created, right? First in creation, and then in the redemptive narrative where we see the book of Genesis, where he speaks into the tohu vabohu, right? Into the chaos, the formlessness, and the void. What is speaking into that is community. And I say that to say the redemptive I've found as somebody that I've been the senior director, right, for engagement at World Vision, the largest Christian humanitarian organization in the world. And I have been into a lot of contexts, right, different variations of poverty. And I've noticed that, and I can say this with conviction, that God's divine answer, God's divine response to the spirit of poverty, because that's what it is. It's not an economic philosophy. It's not a situation. It's right. It's not a reality of dearth or famine. What poverty is essentially a spirit. But I've noticed that the answer is always community, in the exact same way that when we go back to the book of Genesis, right, the origins blueprint, when there was an impoverished context in the tohu vabohu, community spoke into that emptiness, and there was. And we've noticed within the Ubuntu cultural context where, like what you're saying, you called it the philosophy of closing gaps. Whenever there is a gap, maybe a widow has lost her kids and their livelihood, the community comes together and communally, in the model of God, speaks into that lack and says, let there be provision, let there be redemption, and there is. So I know for a fact that right there, that collective ethos, that philosophy called Ubuntu, that coming togetherness, right, is the divine answer to poverty. Now, I want us to go deeper into this because not only is this something near and dear to my heart, right, because it has been my gainful employment for the better part of a decade and all those particular things, but how can I put it? The thing that exists, the juxtaposition, the irony of this is that the spaces and the places richest in community are also the spaces and places where you find the most debilitating forms of poverty. So I want to almost, even as we explore this concept of umuntu, ngumuntu ngabantu, of I am because we are, this social philosophy of Ubuntu, I want us to take a little segue for my sake and for the people watching this and talk about poverty. And I want to ask you a very blatant question, right? If communities pull together and close gaps, why is poverty so existent in places where there are such strong expressions of family and community?
Well, poverty is not the absence of money. Poverty is the failure to speak the language of value in the place of exchange.
Wait. You just started by redefining what, because I'm getting excited because a lot of people, right, the answer to poverty in a lot of contexts is let's throw money at the problem. And you are starting with a correct definition of what poverty essentially is. So slowly, one more time, before you take us down this glorious rabbit hole, right? What is poverty? What is the definition of poverty?
Poverty is not the absence of money.
That's right.
Poverty is the failure to speak the language of value in the place of exchange.
All right, take us in.
People are not poor because they don't have money. They are not poor because they don't understand that value is a language.
Oh, so before we even go into that, so the antidote for poverty is value.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go deeper into value.
Absolutely. Now we've got to understand this this context of value and how value plays out in the arena of exchange.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
It is not so much about money because the wealthiest people are people that understand value.
That's right.
Now before I even get deep into it, we've got to understand that there are different dimensions of value.
That's right.
Right? You have what is called a rational value or cerebral value.
Yeah.
Right? That
Yeah.
says that, you know what, a Mercedes-Benz, you know, a G-Class is worth more than a Golf. I don't know if you've got Golfs in this context, right?
Yeah, there we go.
You can
hoopty is what
right.
Yeah.
So that creates a certain perception, right?
That's right.
If you show up, if we both show up and you do valet parking,
Yeah.
and you are driving a Mercedes Benz or you are driving a Porsche, right?
Yeah.
And I show up and I'm driving, you know, an entry level Toyota.
Yeah.
The expectation of a tip,
Yeah.
right, is very
It's directly
different.
proportional to your
Right.
positioning in
Right.
the perceived arena of value.
Right, because cerebrally, the guy says, well, that is more valuable than this.
So
Right.
the rational extrapolation of value in that particular context says because this person has more, they are more.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
So that's rational value. But then you have what is called irrational or emotional value.
That's right.
Right. Now, irrational value, right, attaches or is value that rises whenever there is a different story, right? For example, a shirt is worth what? Maybe you can go to Neiman Marcus and buy a shirt maybe for $200.
Yeah.
Right? It's $200. It's a shirt.
Yeah.
But if it is a shirt that Elvis Presley wore,
Right.
you know, on one of his
20 grand.
on one of his final tours,
Yeah.
the value goes up.
Yeah.
Right.
Exponentially.
Right. Why? Because that's irrational value or that's emotional value.
Yeah.
You know. And then of course there's what is called political or self-interest value.
Right.
Right. Where people derive value out of association and how it can advance my interests.
You know, it's funny that I'm not going to quote the show because then, you know, people will be like, you know, what is a spiritual formation podcast doing endorsing this show? But I think one of my favorite shows, you'll know about it, it's a political drama. It's really dark. But the protagonist, right, says something which I thought was so profound. And he says, value, basically, I'm going to interpret it that way. It says value is a lot like real estate, or influence a lot like real estate. The closer you are to the source, the greater your property value.
Absolutely.
Right? And he was like, if you are seen in proximity in a picture with other people, people attribute your value to the value of those particular, right? Which I think has, number one, given a rise to a lot of the selfie culture and a lot of the posturing culture that we kind of see in this way. It was so funny. Someone said, this was a comedian, and he was talking about how back then when President Obama was the president, he was talking about everybody knew Obama's name. Right. Yeah. And then by virtue or by proxy of value, everybody knew his dog's name. Yeah. Even though the same people, and he went and did a Vox Pop interview, and he was asking, what is the president of this country? In this country, people didn't know. He was like, what's President Obama's dog's name? And people knew. So by virtue of being in proximity to value, your value increases exponentially. And that is what you call what? Political value.
Political value. Absolutely. Absolutely. So now there are principles that govern value.
That's right.
Because value is a language.
Yeah.
You must know how to transact in value, how to speak in value.
Yeah.
For example, the world pays for value and not time. Right. The world pays for value because we all get 24 hours.
Yeah.
Right? Some people say, well, I'll make more money by throwing more time at it. Right? But if you increase the value of your hour, right, you are able to earn substantially more.
That's right.
Right. And that is why if you're able to invest in yourself and develop yourself, you can do it to a point where an hour, you know, is worth $400,000.
Wow.
Where an hour, right, is worth $400 million as the boxers, right? The same hour that's worth $10 to somebody else, right? Is worth so much more because the world pays for value.
Right.
So literally,
and what you're saying is it doesn't even follow that the value of the person whose hour is more valuable is necessarily more gifted or skilled than the value of the other. I remember it was, and some of the people that come from the Zimbabwean or the South African context will understand how there was a time when we were talking about how Ladysmith Black Mambazo, I think back then, they were charging close to 200,000, if I'm not mistaken, on the numbers, forgive me that, for an hour of their time, an hour performance.
Right.
And there was another group, which I would argue subjectively and even objectively I was more skilled, and it was led by a man called Simon Mambazo.
Right.
And I remember you saying that, and you're right, you'd be hard pressed to get $200 for that hour performance. And you were saying, even if this guy's infinitely more skilled, right, from a subjective perspective, but so would you say it's because the other ones have learned to codify their value and communicate it better than the other one?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. They know how to package themselves in the language of value.
So value has a specific language.
Has a specific language. Right. If you don't know how to speak that language, you may be skilled, you may be gifted, but you will not reap the full benefits. You will not be able to leverage the full extent of what that value could do. Yeah. So the world pays for value and not time. Number two, where value is not known, abuse is inevitable. Right. Where value is not known, abuse is inevitable. So I remember a couple of years ago, as a journalist, I got to interact with these guys that were the first guys in when the diamonds in Zimbabwe were first discovered, the Marange diamonds, alluvial diamonds. Amazing, right? And so now there was a very big rush around that. Yeah. But here's the interesting thing. So I spoke to one of the guys that used to, that lived very close to the area. Yeah. And I said, but what was the issue? Didn't the local guys, the local head boys know or understand that these stones were worth so much?
And by the way, alluvial diamonds are the ones that you don't have to to dig them.
Yeah, they're on the surface. Yeah, they're on the surface.
Yes.
The guy says, well, the guys would see these stones that were shaped differently, and they would use them. They would take them to the river and then throw them, and then they would be skipping on the water. They'd put them on the catapult and they would aim them at birds. Can you imagine?
Diamonds.
It's like $2 million. You just showed $3 million at me, you fool, right? So
that's a true story.
Where value is not known, abuse is inevitable.
Yes.
That same stone that is worth $2 million, 200,000, 300,000 to somebody else.
Yeah.
It's something that you can throw, to actually
skip on the river.
To skip on the river.
Because they're so aerodynamic. I remember a part of the story was like they used to like using it on the catapult because it would make a sound when it's going
You are shooting millions of bucks because you just don't know what it is.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. So you will abuse what you don't value.
Mm-hmm.
And where value is not known, the most logical conclusion to that context is abuse.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
But then we need to understand that number three, it's a principle that governs value. We were created with and for value.
Oh, intrinsic value.
Right. So we've got to and then understand the two dimensions of value that come into play. One is intrinsic value.
Yeah.
A human is intrinsically valuable.
Oh, because of the imago Dei.
Right. Because we're created in the image of God.
That's right.
That's why you cannot just take a human life. You take a human life intentionally, your own life is forfeit, right? Because we're intrinsically valuable.
That's right.
But then we have another dimension to us, which is called assimilated value.
That's right.
So you build assimilated value on your intrinsic value.
That's right.
So I went to school, I studied leadership, I studied neuroscience, I studied management, I studied coaching and all of that stuff. Guess what? That then that put a certain dimension of value on my life that I did not have apart from the intrinsic value and the natural pride that, man, I mean, I'm a brother from Africa, I know my roots type thing, right? But on top of that, that could not make me wealthy or successful.
That's right.
I had to add intrinsic value. Remember the Bible says, add to your faith this, that.
Virtue and
right. So that is the value that comes when we build on that context, right? And then we also have to understand that each one must understand where your value proposition lies.
Wow.
understand your individual value proposition,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
And then utilize that to the best of your capacity.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have no understanding of even where, for example, you are born with a purpose,
Yeah.
but you have a set of gifts,
Yeah.
right? You have some signature strengths, you have some natural strengths,
Yeah.
that things that come literally natural to you and not to anybody else.
Yeah.
But I've never really audited my own strengths, right? And therefore, I find that what I get to do in life has nothing to do with my signature strength.
That's right.
So I'm misaligned. And because I'm misaligned, I then get to struggle. I hate my job. I hate those I work with. I hate everything about the fact that, hey, what am I doing to bring money to myself?
Yeah.
It's because I have misaligned my intrinsic value and the gifts that I was born with. Right. So you have to audit, understand your own value profile.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And understand that the world pays for value and not time. And understand that where value is not known, abuse is inevitable.
Just like purpose.
Right. And understand that you have the capacity to assimilate value on top of the intrinsic dimension of value that you have.
Wow. Man, what you're saying is very interesting, because I feel like it has almost taken us on a recalibrative journey, right, to truly understanding not just the value that's intrinsic to us, but the value that's essentially around us as well, right?
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that even just like when you look at the Bible, the people that understood their value and the people that understood the value of the places that they were contextualized within are the people that we still read about today. And I'm pretty sure there's cautionary tales in the Bible as well.
Right.
When it comes to those particular things. So what would you say is a biblical either narrative that you can extrapolate to kind of pull this before we come back full circle to where we can come up with how people within the majority world context, where it sees a lot of poverty, a lot of cohesive cultural philosophies like Ubuntu, but the deepest poverty, which now we have essentially spoken to, comes from either misidentified or misunderstood value, right?
Yeah, yes.
Take to the book.
All right. Now, interestingly,
yeah,
the principle that then governs what happens, and this is funny because it can happen at a national level, at a community level, at an individual level.
That's right.
You have to know your value.
Yeah.
And that a lot of times show up when you have to negotiate.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And when you have to show up in a particular way so that there's equitable exchange.
Yeah.
There's a guy in Ecclesiastes chapter 9.
Yeah. I love that narrative.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that
Never
narrative,
understood it,
man, it gives us an amazing understanding on how value should be leveraged. But it's a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Right. It talks about a guy.
Ecclesiastes, do you want to read it? Do you have it pulled up or should I pull it up? Let me read it.
Read it.
Because it's a short one, right?
Ecclesiastes 9. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. 14 to 16.
Hang on, let me pull it up.
Yeah.
There was a little city with few men in it, and a great king came against it, besieged it, and built great snares around it. Now there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no one remembered that same poor man. Then I said, wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard.
Right. Now, there's a tension right there.
Yeah.
My question is, why is the man poor when he's wise?
Oh, right. Because you're right, even the value proposition of the spirit of wisdom, even when you go to the book of Proverbs, right? Proverbs 8 is that I bring riches and wealth are with me.
Absolutely.
And all of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The question is, why is the guy poor when he is wise?
Poor? That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's because his poverty, right, is tied to his ignorance on how to speak the language of value where there is need. Let's break it down.
Yeah.
This guy has wisdom.
That's right.
Right? So he's a consultant.
Yeah.
Because consultants sell knowledge.
That's right.
Right. Consultants trade in knowledge. But Tengsulwazi.
That's right.
Right. Others sell tomatoes, others sell vegetables, others sell burgers. Right. as a consultant.
I'm a purveyor of wisdom.
Right, I'm a purveyor of wisdom. My
right.
value comes out of what I know, right?
Right.
So here is a guy, he is a consultant, right? He has wisdom.
Yeah.
Very distinguishable wisdom. He's a source of knowledge in strategy, right? And then the Bible says there was a city that was in trouble. It was at risk of invasion by another city who had actually set up, bulwarks against it. Now, here is the interesting thing. The guy then gives the solution to the king that was under siege. And then he still contextualized as poor. Why? Well, let's go deeper into it. What was the issue? Number one, was the issue his gift? No, the issue wasn't his gift because his gift worked. Was the issue the fact that he was so poor? No, the issue was not his poverty because his poverty did not stop his gift.
Yeah.
Right? So even his self-image, he couldn't say, well, I'm so poor, I can't help you.
Because the wisdom still flowed.
It flowed in spite of his poverty.
And we see a lot of that in impoverished context where people will be like, man, that guy is really smart, but.
Right.
So poverty does not stop the gift flow.
No.
Right.
So the issue was not poverty.
Yeah.
The issue was not his gift. He still had wisdom.
Yeah.
Right? The gift was flowing. Well, was the issue his clientele? That they couldn't afford to pay? No, it was a city.
Yeah.
It had a government system.
Yeah,
oh my God.
GDP.
The GDP of that city was
already
under threat.
in jeopardy of going under the other king. So the treasury was at this.
Oh my God. He should have just said, what are you willing to put down? Right?
That's right.
But the client has money to pay.
Yeah.
He has wisdom.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there is a pressing need. There is pressure on the king that he is serving to find an existential solution because there is a threat. So the setting was so ideal for that man to charge a premium.
Wow.
And still get the contract. But he brings a solution.
Yeah.
And still has to ask them for for an Uber fare to go back home.
So that was it. The breakdown was in his inability to encode his services.
Come on, to speak the language of value, to say what I carry is valuable.
Yeah.
And
so
you
break it down in this particular context. How should he have codified his value? What would you have done if you were that man?
Oh, if I was that man?
Yeah.
I would have sat down across the king and said, King, you have a challenge.
Yeah.
Before the end of the day tomorrow, this kingdom is gone.
Yeah.
Guess what? I have a solution for you.
That's right.
But before we discuss solutions, what's your budget for this solution?
Right.
You see, because a lot of times, particularly as believers.
That's right.
And particularly as believers, even coming out of the African context, we carry solutions, but we still go home without the reward because we don't know how to leverage the value we carry for an equitable exchange.
Wow. I love the fact that you said equitable in the fact that it's not unfair to charge justly for your...
No. Look at the example. David, is taking the food to his brothers. It's a time of war, right? And there's a giant named Goliath. And Goliath is taunting the Israelites. He's a problem. He's a problem. Now, King Saul says that whoever kills or whoever eradicates this problem that Israel is facing, he'll get the girl, he'll get taxes off, right? And he will get a lot of wealth from the king. David hears that. And his first question to the man that we're talking about, he says, tell me, what will be given to the man? The guy looks at his value and says, man, if anyone can marry the king's daughter, I'm the guy.
Yeah.
If anybody is worth living tax-free, I'm the guy.
Yeah.
If anyone is worth having wealth, given to him, I'm the guy.
Yeah.
his understanding of the value that he carried. Remember, twice he asked about that.
Yes.
And they confirmed, and then he went to pitch.
Yeah.
So when he went to pitch for the job, when he actually goes to Saul to pitch for the job, he doesn't come there and sing songs, no. He speaks the language of value. He says to Saul, dude, give me the contract.
Wow.
I've killed a lion.
Yes.
He knows, Saul knows what a lion is.
Yeah.
Dude, a lion, Panthera Leo.
Yeah.
Come on, somebody. You are talking 250 to 500 pounds of sheer raw energy.
That's right.
Come on, somebody. And then, so Saul understands that.
Yeah.
He then says, well, that's not all. I've also killed a bear.
That's right.
My God, 600 pounds of serious.
Because one is force and one is size.
Force and size. Goliath is both.
That's right.
And so, because he's speaking the language of value, Saul says, even though he looks young, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Because he's speaking the language of kings.
He's speaking the language of kings. He's speaking the language of value.
And wow. And you know what's interesting about that before I let you continue? Because I'm getting excited. If my memory serves me correct, right? In the whole narrative of David, Saul, everything happens with Saul specifically, and then he looks for David to come and play, right? This happens before that, and then so David is around the court, and I would even assume that's probably where he learned to speak the language of value. He understood how the king thinks, how you do it in those particular, and then he goes back home and the war starts. So when he's coming back, he's able to communicate the language of the king, the language of value, because he's been around it.
Right. But check around that.
Yeah.
There's a time when Saul has an evil spirit.
Yeah.
David doesn't show up speaking lions and speaking bears. He shows up as a psalmist.
So he's able to contextualize
what the environment needs on a value context.
You say something which is very pertinent to a lot of what we call now the modern day gig economy, right?
Right.
It's almost like there is a pseudo virtue in saying, I consult, I do music, I act, I do all of this. It's almost like, you go to New York and they open the trench coat and there's like watches and all those things.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is the language of value is in knowing how to contextualize from the thousands of multifaceted giftings that you have to contextualize the gift to the solution.
Right. Absolutely. Wow. Because the same guy plays a harp and gets rid of the evil spirit.
Yeah.
And the same guy pitches through his experience with lions and bears and gets the contract.
Yeah.
The other guy brings the solution and goes home empty, even though he's one of the most gifted people in the city. And that's why the writer of Ecclesiastes is like, no, man.
The poor man's wisdom. And another thing here before we pivot, which I think is incredibly important, the Bible goes to painstaking detail to say it was a small city and a mighty king, almost to juxtapose the power of the type of wisdom to where it makes up for the size of the small city and it defeats a larger king.
Absolutely.
So, wisdom, contextualized rightly from what you're saying, has the disproportionate advantage to bring big solutions even if the bearer of that wisdom is small. So little encoding of value is able to speak to... Wow.
Absolutely. So then we have to come back and understand what value language is being spoken here.
Oh, that's good.
Right. What is this a context of rational value that I should bring in?
Yeah.
Right? So that you are sitting in a board meeting.
Framework was for.
Right. You are sitting in a board meeting.
Yeah.
There is a solution, or rather there is a problem.
Yeah.
You can't come up and bring emotional value.
Oh.
Right. You've got to know the environment and the language of value that needs to be spoken there.
Wow.
So that you can leverage the room and then you are able to get what should be rightfully yours.
So as we land this, let me make sure I understand. The types of value that you gave are the framework for you to go whenever there is a problem, you go, what is the solution? Is it, what were they again? Can you walk us through them?
Rational value.
Is this rational value?
Right.
Right.
Is this emotional value?
All right. Is
this political or self-interest value?
That's right.
Right.
And in that particular instance, and then if you can determine which one it is, then you know how to speak to the solution in the language of that particular
In the language of that particular value.
And you would
Absolutely.
say that is the greatest challenge with the majority world context where poverty is rampant.
Oh, yes. Yes. Number one, we don't know how to speak the language of value, but secondly, we don't know how to protect ourselves. Right.
Yeah.
We don't know how to protect ourselves. We don't know how to see ourselves valuable enough to command what should rightfully be ours in that context.
Oh, because there's also a level of self-awareness, of ontological awareness,
Right.
that enables you to where when you are now pitching yourself,
Right.
what you're saying you can deliver is consistent with the package that shows up.
Right.
And
When a lot of people are asked, well, what would your expectation be?
yeah,
Right. We lowball ourselves.
yeah.
Right.
Well, whatever you can.
Whatever you can.
You know, this is my city. I'm here to serve the city.
Right.
That wasn't David.
No.
And he was a man after God's own heart.
Right.
But I think as we land this now brings us full circle to the importance of the concept that we're talking about of Ubuntu. Before you can be of communal value,
Right.
we have to deal with the human aspects of it. And you had mentioned
100%.
something which one day I want us to go back to, and maybe in the next conversation we'll decide, which is, you said the 20 what? What did you call them? The
21 prime directives
yes.
of the subconscious mind.
Yes. Is
Right.
that something that speaks to values? Is that something that helps the individual actualize for the next conversation? Let me ask it this way.
All right.
Where do you think we should go? What do you think we should speak to that would help people then
Right.
and reinforce that aspect?
Absolutely. We need to speak to the building of the understanding of self, right? So that people are confident in who they are.
Yeah.
And then they become confident in how they show up in the context of community.
There we go.
Right? So that you are able to leverage your uniqueness,
Yeah.
right? So that it can find expression, it can find a great expression in the context of society. It's the same thing, that says, hey, even as a continent,
Yeah.
you are the source of diamonds, you are the source of gold, you are the source of rare earth materials, right?
Yeah.
You are the source of so much wealth.
Yeah.
There needs to be a reconstructive recalibration
Yeah.
of what that understanding
Yeah.
should translate to
Wow.
at a global level.
Right. So the next conversation, we're
Right.
going to take a macro perspective. We have gone enough into the individual,
Right.
and the individual is only a means to the greater societal end
Right.
in Ubuntu, which is the culture, the context, and the society. So next, let's talk about that. Your contribution to your society. That is the essence of Ubuntu.
Come on.
Oh, I'm having too much fun with that.